Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to make a little tavern for tabletop gaming. However, I am skint and I don't think we should be spending exuberant amount of money on craft supplies when there is a cost of living crisis going on, you know what I mean? So I think we should dive on into the bins, see what we can find and try and make a good tavern build out of literal rubbish. Let's go. So I wanted this to be a challenge to show basically that you can make dioramas, you can make terrain out of literal rubbish. So I set myself the challenge. I could only use things that I found in the rubbish bin that were otherwise going to be thrown away. Now, I did have some caveats to this rule because obviously you can't stick things with rubbish. So I allowed myself to use just a few very basic craft supplies, including glue of the hot and tacky kind, tape, scissors, an X-Acto knife, and very, very cheap, shitty paints. Now, all of these things you can buy online or at a craft store like Hobbycraft for under £10, so I think it's a pretty good place to start. So to start off this marvellous build, I used a cardboard box. I think this was just one that something arrived in and I just cut it up into little squares and cut little squares into them. And because cardboard can sometimes be a bit flimsy, I basically stuck two bits of cardboard together. These will be making the walls. So I just started taping up all of the bits of cardboard because I don't want the corrugated bit to show through. I think when you're building on a budget, this really does make a difference to things looking like it's made out of cardboard and things looking a little bit more expensive. And then I just fitted all of the cardboard bits and taped up a little bit more. Obviously, with tabletop gaming, you don't really need the terrain to look perfect, which I think is why this is such a fun challenge to do for this kind of project, because normally I make quite realistic dioramas and you do need some higher end materials in order to achieve that, but you can make a really good diorama with just the basics. And I think obviously with tabletop gaming, everyone's using their imagination, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Next thing I did was I got this egg carton and I ripped it up into tiny little brick shapes and started gluing it onto the base of the diorama. This is really fun. It's basically like a jigsaw puzzle and you can cut things to size if you need to. Then I made a mix of white paint and tacky glue and basically spread that all on the bottom half of the diorama. Not only does this give a really good base layer for paint, but it also puts in the grout colour before, so I don't have to add that in afterwards. It also locks everything into place. I then did the same method for the cardboard for the top layer. I wanted this to be like a medieval tavern, so I made the top layer slightly larger than the bottom, so there was a bit of an overhang when I glued them together. Again, lots of tape, reams of tape were used in this project. Then I had these bits of cardboard that I cut out into a triangle shape. And this is to do the roof arch. Then, happy days, we had tacos for dinner, so I had this taco box which I cut up to make all of the wood beams. I basically measured 1 centimetre strips and then cut them with my X-Acto knife. After this, I just used a hot glue gun to stick all of the taco wood beams in place. I basically just eyeballed this. There are bits where you can see the joins of the different bits of cardboard, but I think it looks quite natural like wood. As well as putting the wood across the top and bottom, I also added in some support beams like you see in medieval taverns. And I do think that overall this gives a really cool effect. I think, you know, you can make something that's just like a bit of cardboard and paint, but it's all in the little details that you do that make it look really realistic and actually like something that maybe would have cost a bit of money. Again, adding the wood beam trim on the triangle cardboard walls that I put up earlier. Then I'm basically just trying to weather this cardboard to make it look like wood, so it stands out from the other bits of the wall. I used scissors and my X-Acto knife to carve in some grooves and chip away at the cardboard so that when I painted it, some of the paint would go into those grooves and create the illusion of depth. So as you can see, as I'm painting it, the paint is going into those cracks and crevices and making it look like realistic wood. Next was the roof. Now, I've had beef with making roofs before, but by far this is the best method of doing that. I even use this on my builds where, you know, I'm using slightly more expensive material, so this is a really good hack. I'm using that same taco box again, cutting little grooves into the strips and then gluing them down, and this makes it look like roof shingles. Then of course going over that with copious layers of paint of different shades and then a bit of dry brushing to give that effect. Then I went back to the ground floor and individually painted all of the different egg carton rocks that we had on there. I think this gives a really cool effect because it makes it look a bit less uniform and more, I don't know, magically made. I then, of course, painted all of the bits in between the wood beams on the first floor. I wanted it to look a bit like plaster, you know, when old medieval houses have the plaster bits in them. And then I also put in these little cocktail sticks as window gratings. Next job was to attach the roof. Now, would it be a Kate Lout video if something didn't go wrong? No. So basically I had this massive gap in the roof, so I had to get some more of those taco shell strips and glue them on and paint it. I think it looks really seamless in the end, so I'm not too worried about this. Things are always going to go wrong when you're building things, especially if you're not very maths adjacent like I am. So you've just kind of got to go with the flow and improvise and just do things as they come up. And last off, I'm doing a bit of final dry brushing, and with all that being said, let's go and have a look at the final result. Now, I am really pleased with this project. I think it turned out really well. I think it's perfect for tabletop gaming. And I think if you looked at this, you wouldn't actually think that it was made of rubbish that I fished out of the bin. If you enjoyed this video, do let me know, like, subscribe, comment down below of what you'd like me to make next, or if you've made any tabletop terrain out of rubbish, if you've got any tricks or skills that you've learned in the process, I'd love to know. I'm always trying to, you know, expand my skills and be able to make more outrageous dioramas on a tight budget, because I'm stingy and I'm skint, and I don't want to spend money on craft supplies and then have to store them in my house for the rest of time. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye!